So I was recently out with a good friend of mine, Terry Payne, and some of you may remember him from previous videos years ago. But Terry and I were catching up over a cup of coffee, and he told me a story of something that just happened to him. And it was very, very encouraging, very powerful. And I've asked him to come over and share that with you. So here's Terry.
Actually,
As I was editing the video, guys, I realized there was something I wanted to say. Um, Terry's not someone that considers himself to be an evangelist, a prophet. He's not full time on staff at a church or something like this. He's just your ordinary guy. He's just a simple follower of Jesus, and that's why I think this is such an encouraging story, because it's nice to know that you don't have to be somebody you're not or become somebody you're not in order for God to be working in your life, or to be pleasing to him, or to be acceptable to him, or anything like that. So anyway,
so here's Terry.
so Terry. All right, so Terry, I just wanted you to share the story you shared with me the other day about the man
Oh,
you
yeah.
met at the church.
It was just a story, Josh, that going back about 4 years ago, I was working with this guy, and he asked me would I do a job in Kerry with him. So I had a van at the time, so I drove down to Kerry with him, himself and his wife, and so it was late on the way back anyway, and there seemed to have been a bit of arguing between them that how it didn't do this, or you didn't do that, or you didn't do this, you see, and I was stuck in the middle of them, you see. So all of a sudden I don't know how it just happened, but I started sharing the gospel with him, like of how Jesus came into my life. I invited Jesus into my life, and it is a long journey back from Clarny
Yeah.
at maybe 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning, like, and I just kind of sensed myself that, they were there to themselves, will this fella ever shut up, you know what I mean? We're not interested in this and that, and I just told them my story, and as I say, I took no more notice of it, like, and got home anyway, and as I said, this was about 4 years ago. So through the rigs and reels, as the man says, I forgot all about him, you know what I mean? I couldn't even think of his name when I met him again. But going back a couple of weeks ago, we were at a church in Cork, and myself and Fergal, and whatever way I looked over and I see this guy over in the corner by himself, you see, and I said, I know him from somewhere, I've met him somewhere before, So this guy came over to me and he said, Terry, he says, how are things? And I still couldn't think of his name, and I said, how are you? But I couldn't think of his name, you see,
Right.
but I kind of left on that. I knew his name because he knew my name.
Yeah.
And we were talking away, and I says, he says, what are you doing here? And I was telling him how we came to the meeting tonight. I said, I said, never mind me. I said, what are you doing here? He said, Terry, he said, I've shared the story about you before, he said. And I said, yeah. You were the first person, he said, to preach the gospel to me. He said, do you remember coming back in the van? And I said, yeah. And I said, the funny thing about it, I said, the following morning, I was in my own church, and I got the church to pray for you. That how I shared with my church, how I shared the gospel with a guy last night. And I said, to be quite honest, I said, I didn't think you had any interest in it. Well, to be quite honest, Terry, he says, I didn't. But something happened. I can't put my finger on it, he said. No, he said, it wasn't as if I ran to a church or anything straight away. I didn't. But he said, like, it was when you shared your story to me, it was as if it was still in the back of my mind, and then it surfaced when it was needed, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And he said that I go to this church all the time now, he says, and he says, I'm so happy, he said. I feel the presence of the Lord, he said, and I know I can't do nothing without the Lord now. And he said that when I saw you coming in, it just brought back everything. You know what I mean? And I still couldn't think of his name.
So guys, I hope that encourages you. Remember, your story is powerful. Your testimony is your experience with God, with Jesus. And just share your story. You don't have to be a preacher. You don't have to be an evangelist. You don't have to try to be the next Billy Graham. Just be you and let God move through you in the way that He uniquely made you to be.